This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.
Hey there, Santino. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Good morning, Jenny. How are you?
Oh man, I'm doing great. A lot of stuff going on. Crazy, crazy. I'm trying to catch up with all this stuff here. My mind's going crazy. How you been?
I'm doing the same thing you are doing. So much is going on. Obviously the government closed down. It's not the first time. I think people are overreacting when you look at the histrionics, how many times it's closed down. I think there's even a longer time out there, but I think there's a reason for everything. And on top of that, so much other things are going on too. So keep your head on a swivel, keep paying attention, and keep watching everything around you.
Amen. Because now that they've closed down the government, Trump has a lot more power what he can do. So let's see what's happening. Is he purging this shitty swamp like I think he should? Obviously, it's a slow process, but it definitely is happening. So, with that, everybody, Santino is my co-host. We will wait for few more people to get in here, as well as Alpha Warrior. But for those of you in the meantime, I'm going to give you a little bit of PSAs that don't know who I am. I am Jenny. I'm the owner and the host of the Revival of America. I do about probably 6 to 7 podcasts a week. Some here on X, some on Telegram. Just kind of depends on where that day leads me, right? Or whatever the guest prefers. So we are being listened to, everybody, in over 100 countries. So if if you come into this podcast late, you can always follow the podcast on the podcast hosts, which are iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor, Apple, Google, Breaker, Pocket Cast, Podbean, Riverside, and Amazon Music. I do also post them on all of my social medias, which are Jenny Dreed Facebook, at Jenny_Dreed right here on X, at JJ Reed Rumble, at JJ Reed True Social, at JJ Reed Instagram, The Revival of America on YouTube, and The Revival of America over on Telegram. Also, I highly encourage many of you people that have a lot of stories that have reached out to me that you've been wanting to have your voice heard and maybe your story heard. I do a podcast that basically is your voice, your story, because your voice matters, right? Stand up, speak out, be heard is my tagline. So if you think that is you and you have been wanting to share a story that you think might help, in our future, because remember, your voice is your stories, everybody are going to help shape this new world we're coming into. Please reach out to me at TROA submissions at yahoo.com, and TROA stands for the Revival of America. We will read them, vet them, because unfortunately, everybody, we know there's a lot of scammers and trolls out there. So we will vet them. We will reach out to you via email, and we will get your stories and your voices heard on the podcast. Remember, everybody, we are being listened to in over 100 countries, so it's not just here on X that you're going to be heard. You're going to be heard in other countries. So it's pretty exciting, and I highly encourage all of you guys to use your voices. Because again, remember, your voices matter. Don't be scared. I know a lot of people are putting out that fear mongering. Stay out of that noise, everybody. A lot of fear going on. A lot of great things happening. Hang on to the positives, everybody, because there's more positives than there are negative. Stay out of the noise. Stay out of the fear mongering. Like Santino said, head on a swivel. Always pay attention, because we do know that we are in war, and unfortunately, things do happen in war. People get hurt. Unfortunately, people die. But we got to focus on God, everybody, because at the end of the day, this is His war, and He has already won that. So with that being said, everybody, we got Mr. Alpha in the house. He typically joins us about once a month, but as you know, Mr. Alpha is quite the busy guy, pumping up those muscles over there. But I am very fortunate to get him on my podcast once a month. If I can get him on more, I'm definitely going to try to, because I think as we come further into this situation that we are in, we're going to need more of us out there talking more about and keeping people calm. Because remember, we're the calm in this storm, everybody, and we are going to have people coming to us asking, what do we do? They're going to be scared. They're going to be crying because they don't know what to do. So, with that, Alpha, how are you, my friend?
Well, thank you for that introduction. I always enjoy coming here and spending time with you and your audience. I am freaking pumped up. What a time to be alive. I'm super excited about everything that's unfolding right now.
I am too. I've actually you're speaking about that. I actually got the chills, because it's like, I can't keep up with it. I was telling Santino, it's like boom, 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 right? I mean, we've got the generals over there at that Quantico yesterday. I don't know if any of you guys watched. I'm sure you did, Alpha. But President Trump talking to the generals, as well as Pete Hegseth. Wow, a lot came out of that. That was pretty amazing. Then we've got him master trolling the head of Pfizer, basically making him lower his pharmaceuticals. It's just crazy. I mean, Bibby's visit, like, I don't even know where to start. And then your podcast the other night, great show, by the way. You always have great shows, Alpha. I do share them often. Um, but there's still that reality, right? Like you were saying, we have to pay attention, be vigilant, just watch your surroundings. So I think let's kind of touch on everything. I don't know where you want to start, but all the positives, because there's more positives, but also too, there are those things that we really need to pay attention to just kind of keep your head on a swivel. So it's your floor, your show, so you take it wherever you want to go, my friend.
Definitely appreciate that, Jenny. Well, since you want to start with a positive, here's about the best positive that I can that I can think of. Um, People are gonna be like, "That's a positive. Get out of here." Is we're on a social media app with our friends and people we know right now. And the only reason we're able to do that is because you're not in a gulag somewhere, because you're not in some camp somewhere, because you're not stuck in Guantanamo Bay right now. That you're able to be on this because we are still in a fighting position. The war isn't over. So if you want to kind of put that as the baseline, is you still have choices right now. And as long as you have choices, then there's hope. And as long as there's hope, then like be happy. You still a lot of people didn't wake up today. You're one of the fortunate people that did. Now, if you're one of the fortunate people that gets to end this day and wake up again tomorrow, what are you going to do with it? And I kind of said this, on the podcast on Monday night, Jenny, is when you get to the end of the day, if we all reflect on yesterday right now, ask yourself, are you just working to live? What did you accomplish yesterday in terms of helping to facilitate this mission to 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 win our country's sovereignty and ultimately to help humanity? And if all you did was go to work to pay bills, take the kids to school, do the daily routines, laundry, lunches, if that's all that happened by the time you got to the end of the day, then you're just, an NPC in what's going on right now. And you have the ability to control that. So much of the stuff that we talk about and so much of the stuff that we post about is out of our control because of how vast it is. Now, we still need to talk about it because there's narratives and agendas that are being pushed, but the primary focus of your individual effort should be directed at what do you actually have a tangible effect on. And when you look at it in that realm, things get a lot easier and a lot simpler. And so I would just kind of challenge everybody as we kick this conversation off to reflect on that stuff throughout today. We all want to be a part of everything, but each one of you that's in here should be the hero in your story. You shouldn't be, the best supporting actor in your own story. And if that's the way you're living, then you got it wrong. This is your story, and we happen to be in this meta universe where our bubbles kind of intersect and all that. But the hero in my story is me. The hero in Jenny's story is her, and that's the way each one of you should approach it. Don't be the best supporting actor in your own story. You don't want to get to the end of life and figure it out that you had it wrong. And so, kind of moving on from that, what's one of the things that we can have a conversation on? And it's sitting literally on my desktop right now because I was doing some edits and I saw the time and I was like, holy smokes, I got to get in there because you guys know Alpha's always punctual, right? And it's the news has come out within the last 2 days, 2.5 days now, because Benjamin Netanyahu put it out there, and now you have the Jerusalem Post, different bunch of different places that have reported, influencers being paid $7,000 per post. What does that mean? That means I just ordered my Trump yarmulke. I just ordered some curly sideburns, and I just sent my resume over to Israel. That's what that means. I'm just playing.
Oh,
Somebody.
people are gonna run with that one now.
So, hey, listen, somebody's definitely going to clip that, and that's okay because you got to find humor in the battle. But what does this really mean? This is this is something that's finally gone public, but we have known this for years now. We've have talked about it. And here's spoiler alert, it's not just Israel. The CCP does this. The Muslim Brotherhood does this. The military industrial complex does this. Pro-Ukraine does this. Now ask yourself when you come into spaces like this, is your space host or co-hosts or speakers, are they who you think they are? Are 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 they representing themselves in something that you're like, you know what, I've been following this person for quite a few years now, and they've been consistent. And when they've had a shift in opinion, there's been a set of markers that kind of support that change of behavior. Or did all of a sudden Monday they showed up and they just had a completely shift in opinion, and there was no major news around the world. There was nothing significant to support that instant change of behavior. That's usually a huge red flag on somebody being compromised. And here's what I would, nothing's an absolute, But here's one of the most obvious flags you can find on this platform, on X, and I would say this would even go into Substacks and podcasts as well. Single issue content creators, influencers. If somebody is trying to get you to focus solely on one issue, and that alone, there is a very strong likelihood that that person is compromised, paid, owned in some capacity. And why is this? And I'm speaking to the Americans here. America is being attacked on all flanks. America is surrounded in this irregular warfare that's going on. So that means each one of us has to be fighting on many of these flanks as we can, whether it's the economy, whether it's elections, whether it's body autonomy with the jabs and the medications, whether it's the border, whether it's the APAC CCP influence into our government. All these things are happening simultaneously. And if we all were just to focus on one single thing, we'll get destroyed by the other things. And so anytime you see someone trying to isolate you to just one simple agenda, use caution there. Now, if somebody asks me which one do I think is the most consequential, I would say the fair and transparent elections. And why? Because that one kind of sets the base for all of these things that we're on. But then again, we still can't focus on that one. There's a lot of things that are happening. So if now it's gone public and we've been talking about, we get vindication for talking about this for so many months. Well, what's the solution? Well, here's the one person I can guarantee you that is not bought and paid for. Absolutely, definitively, I will bet the house on this right now. I can give you one person with absolute certainty that you will know that they are not compromised, and that is you. There's nothing preventing you from grabbing the reins. There's nothing preventing you from grabbing the lantern and being the Paul Revere. You can become a space host. You can go from retweeting people's content to, I see this person's post, but I have these thoughts about it. So instead of just retweeting it, I'm going to do a quote post here and I'm going to offer my own thoughts. This is the easiest way to get into the realm of creating your own influence. Because again, and Jenny, you've heard me say this on these shows with you countless times. And I know it sounds like a broken record, but I'm going to say, I just won't stop saying it. It's and I lost my train of thought
Oh, you just
right there.
lost it.
It's just something popped up my screen. That's absolutely funny. We have people with a sense of humor. I will come back to that because it was important. I promise. Somewhere in an alternate universe, there was a standing ovation for that one. But you can become the content creator. You can start running spaces. You can start writing Substacks because we need diversity of opinion. Because what happens is, and you guys have noticed this. If you go and see a post, you're like, man, that's like the 14th time I've seen that post today. And you can actually track these posts down to where its original source came from, which is going to be probably two or three people. And then if you go through those two or three accounts, what are you going to be able to derive from that? Oh, these people are always posting this kind of stuff. They're always they align with this, and all you're seeing is, mainstream media that has rebranded itself into this illusion of an alt media. And once you start to realize, you can be like, well, man, I'm still getting hoodwinked again. And then that's going to kind of encourage you to start researching stuff before you do a quote post or a comment. And then as you start to research this stuff, you're going to be like, hey, that's not even true at all. Or you're going to be like, you know what, that is true, but there's way more to the story. And this is kind of taken out of context. Those simple things. Now, when you go put it out into this digital warfare, the trenches of information warfare here, when you put it out there, now your people are going to see it. And maybe you only got 100 people or 200 people that see it. But if just 1% of them put it out, and then you start to do, the ripple effect of that, all of a sudden you start to get these counter narratives. What I've been trying to push my audience, for probably the last three months now, and the people that I've been trying to coach and help out is We have shifted from a defensive posture in the MAGA community, the conservative Republican community, the America First. We're shifting from a defensive posture to an offensive posture. All of you, and because I see a lot of familiar faces in here, all of you, because I've heard you guys talk about it in these spaces, and I'm like, why don't they post that? That's such great info. They should post it. But you guys have seen where you see a couple posts starting to surface. We're in these spaces, and all of a sudden there's breaking news. And in those conversations, what do we start talking about? Oh, they're going to go here, here, and here, and here. Why? Because each one of you has enough information battle experience now that you can tell where the narrative is going, how it's being set up. And so normally what we've done is we just immediately start defending. Well, now the way we make this an offensive movement is, where they're trying to go with it. You jump all the way ahead of that and you start putting out, this is what they're going to say here. This is what they're going to say here, because this is what they're trying to get you to think. And when you do that, and enough people do this in mass, it rug pulls the narrative warfare that they are trying to push. And that's why you're seeing, and because it's been happening by accident, over the last couple months, and it's been very successful without the intentions being there. Now, granted, I know there are some outside sources on the good guy side that see this information as well, so it's an accident with an asterisk. But what I'm saying is the vast majority of regular people that aren't here with an agenda are pushing this, and it's unfolding. And that's why you see where, an agenda will start in the morning, and where it took a couple of days, a couple of weeks to kind of put that fire out. We're seeing that stuff happen in under 6 hours. We're seeing mainstream media and this controlled opposition having to adjust their stories or completely abandon their stories in less than a day's time frame. In information warfare, irregular warfare, that is huge. That's huge, but we're never going to win if that's where we stick. And that's why I say we have to move into this offensive posture now, to where we know what Trump is trying to do. We know what our DOD is trying to do. We need to start putting that information out there. And listen, there's nothing wrong with starting your post off with my speculation, my opinion, my assessment on this, my thoughts on this. So this way, your audience knows, okay, this isn't factual, but based off of whatever context they're going to lay out for me and information they're going to lay out for me, this is where they think that this is going to go. And what's going to happen is, as you start to do this, and some of the information you put out ends up unfolding, you're going to start to build confidence in your accuracy. And your audience is going to start to build confidence in your accuracy. And what that's going to do is that's going to motivate you and encourage you to dive a little bit deeper and to become a little bit more bold in your assessments. And then again, as you do deeper research, you're going to get more accurate. As you get more accurate, you're going to get a better response, and you're going to see how it's playing out. And you're just going to see how this is going to kind of build into a momentum. And what you don't even realize is you are training yourself into being a narrative assassin. Badlands Media, we have a group of buddies over there that do a podcast called The Narrative, the storytellers. And that's what this is. And it's who's controlling the narrative. And right now it's a freaking coin toss. Sometimes there's days where the deep state's winning, and sometimes there's days where we're winning. And we want to move that goalpost over to where we're winning the majority of the time. So I'll take a pause there, Jenny, if you want to ask me anything about that, or if somebody wants to ask questions on that, I'll give it to you real quick.
Thank you, Alpha. All right, Santino, go ahead and do your thing, my friend. I forgot to tell you to do that. Go ahead, my friend.
Thank you so much. Could everybody please go down to the Pearl Pill that's at the bottom right of your phone? Yes, we do have a Pearl Pill. If you want to post anything, please post that in there. Do not post in the nest. It kind of glitches up the space. Can you also go in there and like the space, like and share space, quote and share space, get some more people in here. It's going to be a great space. If you'd like to request a mic, we're more than glad to bring you up. Just please request. Keep your mics muted, put your hand up, and we'll come to you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Santino. I just love it when you do that. And everybody, don't be nervous to request a mic. Your voice matters. I always tell that to my audience. So I'm thankful you all are here, because if you guys aren't following Alpha or Santino and the speakers up here, please do that as well. Alpha is a wealth of knowledge. Giving a lot of great information. He and Josh from Red Pill TV I mean, everybody's doing amazing. So many people are doing a lot of great stuff out there, but there are also too, everybody, there's those shysters. So it's like I tell my audience all the time. I used to tell them, if you follow 3 to 5 people through your journey here and they've gotten you this far, they're more than likely going to get you over the hump. But I'm telling you what, everybody, and I think Alpha's even said the same thing, you kind of need to revisit things, because we're seeing a lot of these people that we thought maybe were good, were maybe not so good, kind of falling by the wayside. You never know who's gotten to them and offered them, maybe that influencer pay or something like that. So vet them out again, everybody. And I'm telling my audience now, if you have 1 to 3 people you've been following, stick and stay, everybody. It's time to pick that side. And if you just don't know who to follow, obviously follow your Bible for one. That's first and foremost. Secondly, Donald Trump for sure. Definitely, if you're so confused, you don't know who to trust, follow Donald Trump. And just be careful of those false narratives out there that people are pushing on Donald Trump, because they're nasty and they're pretty wicked. So just stay out of the noise, everybody. And if you guys have questions, again, like I said, request a mic. So Dutch, what is it? Dutch Force. I'm gonna open up your mic. Go ahead and ask Alpha. If you have a question for Alpha, go ahead. Otherwise, if not, Alpha, we can kind of talk about the general situation yesterday at Quantico, Virginia. We can talk about Bibby's visit. I mean, there's just so much. Like, I don't even know where to start. Like, it's crazy. And you already talked about the paid influencers. You know how Bibby came out and talked about that. I mean, he's on a recording saying that, everybody. So that's not false information. So go ahead, Dutch. Do you have a question for Alpha or no? Okay, you guys. If you guys
Yeah,
request, go ahead.
yeah. I just want to to let you know it's amazing to have that opportunity to speak. I'm from the Netherlands, Europe, a little country, small but huge in in all the things what's going on in the world. And I'm former Air Force corporal, so I served here in the Netherlands as a soldier, and now as a proud dad with 3 amazing children and an amazing goddess at home. Yeah, putting some things out. My former account is suspended. Uh, I got back with another account, this account. So yeah, I'm very grateful to be speaking here. And what Alpha is saying, yeah, it's a COVID war, fifth, sixth generation information war, and yeah, a lot of things are going on. So I enjoy this space a lot, and it's now by the time here 8 o'clock in the evening, so it's easier. So yeah, I love it, serious, and love and light to send you all here, and hope as everybody is doing very well in the health situation. So praying for that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here, Dutch. And thank you for your service also to your country, and actually, the world, because right now it is information warfare right now. And yes, there's a lot of a lot of stuff going on, everybody, and just hang on to the positive. Alpha, did you want to respond to that, or do you want me to go on to some of these questions?
A quick response to that, real quick, is one of the things that I've really learned in the last couple of years is when I've used the word patriot in the past, I was always applying that to the American patriot. But what I've learned, especially from, the letters and communications I get from my audience members, and they're all over the world, is patriot is not something universal to America. Patriot is something that's a tag for people in all of humanity, and that's important. And I do want to answer a question that I got in the DMs, because a lot of times we say words and we forget not everybody knows what we're talking about. So the question is, I hear controlled opposition all the time. What is that? So think of controlled opposition as, groups, alt media organizations, content creators, influencers, podcasters, space hosts, people that on the surface it appears like they're independent. They're operating on their own, but the reality is that they're being funded, they're being steered, they're being influenced by bigger powers. A lot of times you see people attack the Q community, and they'll use, Operation Trust, as a way of trying to say that this is what it is. A whole separate conversation, and they're completely different, and there's very distinct differences between the two. But one thing about Operation Trust is it is a good thing to study to understand what controlled opposition is, because that's what you see. You see this fake opposition movement, that was created by the Bolsheviks to trap dissenters. And so, you on the Cold War fronts with CIA, versus the KGB, you saw this. But now you got to see how this controlled opposition applies in its modern application to what we see now. And like I said earlier, that's with space hosts, influencers, pundits. I mean, you name where information's coming from, and that's kind of where you see, controlled opposition. So hopefully, that kind of gave everybody a good understanding of what that means. And I'll give it back to you, Jenny.
Also, too, Alpha, would it be fair to say when you're trying to distinguish, when you're listening to these podcasters, influencers, space hosts, whatever it may be, whether it be you may be in a comment box over on Facebook or you may be in a chat over on Telegram, the consistency of what they are saying and the consistency of their guests and what they're speaking as well, would that be fair to say something to watch for?
100%. Here's something that they've deployed. Now, I first picked this up probably about a year and a half ago, but I've seen in the last couple weeks, like really being played out to perfection. And it's the entire skit role play. And the CCP is the obvious one because it's just easier to distinguish, but all groups are doing it, all agendas are doing it. And what you'll see someone come in. Again, it's these single agenda talking points people, and they'll be saying something. And then all of a sudden, another voice comes in, and this will be a profile that you're like, I haven't seen this person around. And those people start opposing the person with the agenda. And you're just like, oh, here we go. Two people with two different ideologies right here. But you'll see the primary person, the primary, the lead actor in this skit, will all of a sudden start to pick away at the second person. And then you'll start to see the second person start to capitulate to the first person, being like, oh, okay, I see that. Oh, and that makes sense. And in some situations, depending how big the space is, you'll even have a third person come up that'll also start to concede to that primary actor. And what does this do? This creates the environment and thought process for the rest of the audience to be like, well, yeah, I was kind of leaning with these people over here that had this opposition, but they're acknowledging that they were wrong and they're acknowledging that this person was right. And that starts to seed in your mind, well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this person is right. And you start to buy off on, like, that's how sophisticated this irregular warfare is on these space platforms.
Sophisticated and kind of scary too, everybody, because I have noticed some people that have been right along in this journey with many of us talking the same talk, and now they've listened to some of these black pillars or the misguiders of this movement, right? The fakesters. And now your mind's a powerful thing, so you really need to be careful what you're putting, what you're listening to, what you're putting into it, because I'm telling you, I have seen those people being right here along with us, but now they're over on that side, and it's terrifying to see everybody. So just protect that mind. If you can't handle it, I suggest my audience all the time, get out of the comment box, get out of the podcast, get out of the space, get out of the chat room, whatever it is, get the hell out, because I'm telling you what, you you could probably walk out of there, one of those comment boxes or chats, and feel like jello. So just be careful, everybody. Your mind is powerful. So with that, everybody, okay, Sergeant, go ahead, your hand is up, and then CPAT Fish, you can go after Sergeant. Go ahead.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Jennifer, thank you
Hello.
for the space. Alpha, how's it going? Santino's been a while. I see some familiar faces in here. Hey, Reaper, Stellar. Just wanted to, I wanted to talk more about and I'll wait if you guys want to talk specifics about it, but I'm more interested about the Pete Hegseth and the Donald Trump speech to the generals. That's what I'd really like to talk about, because I've got a lot to say about that.
Well, yeah, that's part of one of the topics that I brought up with Alpha. So yeah, if you guys let's go for it.
Well, I'll keep it short because I don't want to take away any fire from anybody, because I know Alpha's got a lot about it too, because he's a Marine as well. But if he did see my video, I posted a video the other day. I'm not looking for that, but one thing I said in there was, I said the one thing that he put them on notice for was to say, look, we're done with this 2010 to now bullshit. We're going back to before that. We're going to go back to whenever we were allowed to instill real fear in boot camp. We're allowed to adhere to all of the regulations via the UCMJ and not not pitter patter around them or pretend like there's some sort of gray area or a loophole or some stupid shaved shit, right? It's going to get back to a very black and white military, and that I'll leave it at that. That was the most powerful speech that I think any person has ever given in regards to the future movement of the military that I've heard in my entire life. And I'm 35 years old, and I've heard many speeches from about my time to a little bit before, but I'd say probably in the last 40 to 50 years, it's probably been the most powerful speech that he's given as in regards to, now this is what the public sees, right? Because there's two layers to this. So what we saw was, look, we're wrapping it the fuck up. We're tired of this. No more bullshit. No more sissy shit. We're not holding hands. Shave your face. No more, long hair. No more ponytails. No more lax this. No more fat bodies. Everybody needs to go. And every duty day, that made me so happy. Oh, that made me so happy. Every duty day, you must PT. Amen. Because I tell you what, I remember that even our staff NCOs, when I was getting out back in 2018, they were like, "Oh, we only this 3 days a week is fine, no big deal. We could do like yoga on Tuesdays and Thursdays or something like that." And I'm like, "What the fuck is this? Is that really what we're coming to?" So when I got out, I was happy to get out because I saw the direction it was going. I only got to live the real Marine Corps for 1 year. I got a real boot camp and I got a real MCT and then I got a real fucking first 9 months, a real first 6 months, and that was it. And then 2010 December, Don't Ask Don't Tell Don't Ask Don't Tell got repealed, and then before I knew it, by March, May timeframe of 2011, I had deployed in February. I came back and the Marine Corps was a completely different fucking place. I was like, what happened? It left me. It left me. I was like, I wasn't even going to re-enlist the first time, but I did. And I was like, I'll make a change. I'll make an effort. And I was a bulldog fucking corporal, and I was a pain in the ass, fight for my Marine sergeant, and I was never about the bullshit. But my outspokenness, who you guys have seen for, and my mouth gets me in trouble. We all know this, right? But I will speak my mind, and I don't care who says it. If there's something to be said, if there's nothing to be said, then, I care about my day, carry out the planning of the day, train my Marines, do work, go PT, don't take care of my Marines, counsel them and mentor them. But if there's stuff that's fucked up, I always said what I was supposed to say, and when it was needed to be said, I would take it up the chain, but I was not polite about it. I never beat around the bush. I wasn't sissy about it. I wasn't calm. I wasn't, oh, well, I think it's my opinion. It's, no, this is fucked, and here's a solution. And I never went to anybody without a solution. That's the one thing too. We can all, and this is what Alpha is saying too. Like, we can all say that, we want all these great things, we want to do everything, right? But and somebody who is very funny to me, Blue, he says this all the time. Local action creates national impact, and he's not wrong about that. So whenever we're here on these spaces and we're fighting the fight that we're supposed to be fighting as digital soldiers and digital warriors, right, being led by people like Alpha, how to fight these fucking people and how to make sure that the truth, we can call it a narrative because it's our narrative, but we'll call it
So,
the truth. Sorry.
Sergeant, real quickly. No, you're good. Alpha, I forgot to ask you, where are we at time wise? I know you said, are you an hour? You're an hour and 15 today. What do we got?
I can go to 15 past the hour, but after that, I do got to do a hard stop.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right, no
I'm good.
worries.
That's good.
I get
I
it.
was
No, you're good, Sergeant. I just want to. I normally ask my guests that, and we talked about it, he and I, on the backside, but I just want to confirm. But real quickly, go ahead, Alpha, if you want to respond to what Sergeant said. And Sergeant, thank you, obviously, for your service. We absolutely do appreciate it. But and Alpha, you as well. But go ahead if you want to respond to that, Alpha.
and thank you for the love and support.
Of course.
A couple things there, with what Sarge brought up, and what a capsule they all kind of fall into is morale, right? Within the Department of Defense itself, but also within the public. When you look at the Biden's administration, and what are we seeing? We're seeing generals, with fruity colors, a he, she, or she, he. I don't even know what the proper way to say that is. You saw these things that absolutely destroyed, that masculine, you know, history that the military had to people. And people are just like, what? This is disgusting. This looks like weakness. There's a lack of, this is the people defending our sovereignty. But here's the thing, yeah, right? Because the gap is even bigger than that. That's the negative effect it had on us. At the same time, What do you see the Russian military commercials look like? What do you see the Chinese military commercials look like? You see these dudes that all look like Schwarzenegger, right? It looks like, scenes out of, Rambo that are being shown, the best of the best. You're even seeing, out there with the UK guys, SAS commercials. Like you're seeing like these men that are warriors that actually look like warriors. So you're seeing the demasculinity of our military, where you're seeing the progress of, quote unquote adversaries, which is a whole different conversation of itself, because people probably really aren't adversaries, and people who we think are allies probably aren't really allies. All this is happening. So, what's one of the first things that Trump and Hegseth were putting within the first, I think, week and a half to 2 weeks of the administration? Because I definitely caught this one. They started talking about recruiting numbers. Right out of the gate, they started talking about recruiting numbers. As a matter of fact, Hegseth had came out and said that even in December, which was still under Biden's administration, but knowing that President Trump had won the presidency, and knowing that President Trump was going to be the president the following month, it saw the highest numbers ever, and that hasn't slowed down. As a matter of fact, even Trump has hinted to the part of, we may actually have to start turning away applicants. And why is that a good thing? Because I've heard people say, well, why would you want to do it? When you have such an abundance of applications, you can only fit so many people into boot camps and schoolings. This allows you to be picky. And when you're picky, that means you get to start to say, well, I'm going to get this person and this person, this person. So all of a sudden, the culture of society is like, well, I want to do this, so I better be athletic. I better be smart. And that creates stronger people coming into the recruitment. Now, this is something that's not going to be fixed in a year. But why has this, to go what's what the picture that Sarge is painting? Why is this important? Because it tells you that there's an understanding within the Department of Defense and our presidency that the way things look impacts society's morale. And if we know that there is a climax coming where all this stuff is going to apex, and it's something that can be, a potential
This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.
ground war, it could be a potential World War III. You have to have the confidence of society to back the moves that the presidency is going to make there. If all of a sudden we're talking about boots on the ground in Iran, or boots on the ground in China, or name the place of the planet where it's going to happen, and Americans are like hell no, man. We have like trannies, we have fat bodies, people that can't do pull-ups, we have people in the military that are talking about you can't do this. Well, then all of a sudden people don't have confidence in that decision, and they're looking for the president to make alternative decisions, which is what the deep state wants. So there's that part. Also, and I know Sarge said that he kind of saw this shift start to happen in 2010 for him, but I remember back to, this would have been what, maybe '04, '05, plus or minus a year there. But we used to have in the, well, all branches, but in the Marine Corps, one thing that we take a lot of pride in, people know this, is our uniforms. We are OCD when it comes to our uniforms. We're I guarantee you go to a military base right now, any Marine Corps base, and you're still going to find a can of starch, right? Because that's just the way we are. But we moved from these uniforms before to these digital uniforms. Now, the color concept to this is like, okay, that makes sense. But what else happened was the design of the uniform, all of a sudden they looked like pajamas to us. And why am I bringing up something so simple as a uniform? Because it's something that also had to do with discipline. And when you had your uniform, you knew you had to invest time into making sure those creases were done to perfection. Starch, do the iron, let it cool, start it, because you wanted someone to touch your crease and cut their finger like that. That was the goal. That required time. To dedicate that time, that required you being disciplined. And so when you start to move away from the simple day-to-day things of discipline, you see that lack start to have a ripple effect into everything else, whether it's weapons training, whether it's your physical condition, whether it's your respect for the chain of command. You start to degrade that discipline everywhere. And now you multiply that concept throughout the entire military, and all of a sudden, something as simple as uniform has manifested into a huge thing. And so I think with that, Sarge, I think this is something that they've been slowly chipping away at a lot. Because I guarantee you, if I talk to an old devil dog that's from the '80s, he'd be like, "Bro, let me tell you about some shit that you guys were doing that was chipping away." So this has been long time coming to affect our military. And the reason I'm harping on the military is because I truly do believe that military is the only way. I truly do believe that in the end, when all this does come to resolve itself, that we are going to win because of the military we have. So
So
go
real
ahead,
quick,
Jenny.
I have a question for you, Alpha. So with all, with everything that happened over there in Virginia yesterday, do you think that some of these generals, being what we have just gone over with you and Sarge, do you think some of these people were given their walking papers? The purge?
I don't think so yet. And here's the thing: we know a lot of compromised generals were in there. I mean, I would argue probably more than half of them are compromised. And I think I'm actually being conservative with that estimate. And the reason I think I'm being conservative, if you go all the way back to Obama's administration, he got rid of hundreds of generals. And who do you think were the generals he picked? The generals we want. And so there was this purge at the highest echelons of our Department of Defense. And so it created two things. One, it put generals in place that don't align with what we truly see for our military, but it also created the mentality for other people that were not generals yet that realized, well, if I want to become a general, this is the behavior and the changes I'm going to have to make. So it even created this generation coming behind to replace the new established generals that Obama picked, that all of a sudden they started to self-compromise because they lacked the leadership. I think, there's a couple of theories that we have with what happened yesterday. One, it's unprecedented. That's one fact that we can all, agree on. That's not speculation. Two, it's an extremely dangerous move. Very dangerous, because you're consolidating, quote unquote, the highest leadership all in one area, when we know that there are still a shitload of tier one threats that came across our borders during Biden administration in this country right now. So it's a very dangerous move. Two, you demanded it in just under a week's notice, which, even for those generals to start getting the logistics down to come over here because of the short time frame, meant that there was limited ways that they were going to make it back stateside, which creates, a very dangerous concept. Now, that being said, I do know that Trump is brilliant, and we know that Hegseth is brilliant. So we know that even though they gave these generals and these admirals about a week's notice, we know that this has been in the works with them. At least my speculation is this has been in the works with them for quite some time. So they already knew what replacement teams were going to be being sent out to replace these guys. And it's my speculation that these replacement teams are probably the teams that Trump and Hegseth want where they're at, because of so much compromise that's taking place. The other thing is what's one of the things that Trump said in that meeting to the generals and admirals? He goes, "We know everything about everyone." Now, imagine he's sitting there talking about how you have this infiltration into our government, and he's talking about how we know everything about everyone. And imagine you're one of those generals that's in there that knows you're playing dirty, and you hear that statement.
I wish we had a camera facing him when they said that. I wish it was just looking at the crowd of generals when he said that.
And there probably is, because there's some shots that have come out. So, but imagine the morale shot to the bad guys that's there. Now, the other thing, and me and Josh kind of talked about this last night, is what impact does the government shutdown have on getting these guys back to their posts? Because what's one of the things that Trump also said when he was addressing the generals? He goes, "It was really expensive to bring everybody here like this." So he's already identifying costs. Now, I have heard some people make arguments that, well, yeah, but there's a reimbursement process. Yeah, there's a reimbursement process if you're covering a hotel, if you're covering this. If you're talking about having to reimburse moving you and your entire senior staff to these posts, we're not talking pocket change, folks. This is something that they pull out their DoD credit card to pay. Not everybody's dropping, 100 grand, 200 grand to make these type of logistic things happen. So, yeah, I do understand there's a reimbursement process. I don't see that happening when you have hundreds of generals and admirals coming to do that. So, is this a way of delaying the majority of these people getting back to their posts? We'll wait and see. The other thing is, what's one of the things that Trump said? If anybody doesn't like it here, you can get up and leave, but that's probably going to affect you keeping the job. So he was baiting them. So there's that. The other thing, it also is, was this baiting the deep state to make some moves? Because if I'm the bad guy and I'm planning an attack, well, damn, why not do that when I know all of the most important people are stateside, and it's going to at least create, somewhat of a lag and orders getting back to the post on how to handle a situation I'm going to create as a bad guy. So, in law enforcement, when I was working gangs, when we were working, like, we'll use like a homicide investigation. Let's say we were starting to kind of dry on leads, or let's just say we did have a solid lead, but we couldn't prove it and we weren't getting the intel. We would go and we'd create search warrants, to get wiretaps, and digital surveillance. And then we would go and put out a fake breaking news story to the local media. And witnesses has come forward. We've learned information on the suspect weapon. Information we didn't have. And what that did is we called it tickling the wire. That created all of a sudden communications that now we're monitoring, and all of a sudden you get 5 or 6 gang members saying, "Hey, has anybody talked to Hector? Has anyone talked to Hector? Has anybody?" All of a sudden we're just like, "Okay, we're right. Hector's our man." Or we're like, "Okay, we didn't have ears on this guy. This is the guy we need to pay attention to." Well, now imagine this on a global scale with the military. We know you guys have seen the social media coming out. We know that Al Qaeda slash the intel agencies have people and operators in this country that are planning on doing harm in this country. We know that exists. So imagine if you were creating a scenario to create the conversations to either activate, deploy, instruct, or adjust these groups of people. Now all of a sudden, your intelligence agencies, the good ones that are working for Trump, now have stuff to work on. So one of the things that I'm looking for over the next week and a half is how many networks we see get taken down that they tell us publicly. If we start to see groups that are either blown up or destroyed outside of American borders, we can probably deduct that this was, them essentially tickling the wire, and this whole generals and admirals coming was actually an op to create that stuff that happened externally.
How do you
Wow.
feel, Rat,
Thank
after
you.
this?
Thank you, Alpha. All right, we're gonna circle back to you, Sergeant. I'm gonna go to Watchful Warrior. You've got your hand up, and then after that, go ahead. See Pat Fish. Go ahead, Watchful Warrior.
Hey, Jen. So nice to be on your show. Appreciate the
Hi.
microphone. It's good
Of
to see
course.
you. I want to shout out to a few of my buddies out there. Santino, good to see you. Good, my friend. Reaper Kitty, right on. Good to see you. Hey, good to see my Marine friends out there. Alpha and Sergeant Pete. Glad to see you guys. Semper Fi. Right. Hey, you did kind of invoke me, Alpha. You did say you wanted to see a Marine from the 80s. Well, here I am, baby. What you got?
No, I was making the statement that the same way, I can tell, a Marine that experienced something in 2010, like, hey, we moved away from this. I was saying that I'm pretty sure a Marine from the 80s or older, because we know you old salty ass devil dogs always got shit to say, can come in and say, oh yeah, well, if you think you had it hard here, this is really having it hard, because I always feel like I was part of the last couple of Marines where drill instructors could physically kick the shit out of you. I wish they would bring that back.
Well, my friend, I'm from the time of iron sights and 45s, baby. That's how we roll. We used to pull the pin with our teeth and chuck them, right? But what you were saying, I think, is absolutely correct. I think, I think the commander and the secretary have either plotted something in the background or in the midst of plotting something that's bigger than what we can see right now with our intel feeds. We can't see this of what they're doing, but we can use our best judgment. We can use that 70% and say, well, this falls right in that 70% area, so we're going to go with it, right? It sounds like like they've cooked up some tricks back there. And you know what? We do not want shitbirds and sea lawyers up there as generals. We cannot have that. We cannot have that. So we have to get rid of them. And I don't know if this was Trump hanging them out there and say, hey, Al Qaeda, whoever's in the U.S., you want a shot at some of them? Here you go. That could have been that. Who's to say, right? Because you normally do not dangle 100 generals out on a string and tell everybody where they're at. I mean, we've never heard of that before. Not exposed to the way that it was. I mean, we heard that Obama fired, hundreds of generals after the fact, but it was after the fact. It wasn't, and they didn't. And here we're televising the event. To me, it was a kiss off. It was like, well, you can leave when I show you the door, or you can leave when you show the door to yourself. But either way, you're leaving. I kind of took it like that, because he would come out and say that. He didn't say they were staying. He said, if you're a queer dancing in the corner, or you can't do it, you can't give me 20. Well, then you know what? It's time for you to go, right? But yeah, I think there's more going on than what meets the eye. I think this feeds into something else. I think this might have been directed at a lot of them, because Lord knows we have a lot more than 100 generals, right? But good to see you there, Alpha. Please do call again. Marines from the 80s are always ready to go, brother.
Oh, thank you, Watchful Warrior.
Thank you, Jen. Good to
Thank
see
you.
you.
100% watch. And before you go, just I know you come from a time of iron sights.
You bet.
I also come from a time of iron sights,
Uh,
except we used to actually hit people, with our iron sights.
well, you know what? I got my drill instructor's cover. How about that?
That's awesome.
I got the DI's cover, because I've been at the game for a long time, since high school, ROTC.
Thank you, Watchful.
Pleasure to see you guys. Great show.
Take
Appreciate
care.
you.
God bless.
God bless you.
All right, CPAC, go ahead. Your hand's up.
Hey guys, so yesterday too, under the MFN, the most favorite nations, when they did the Pfizer thing, they did the prescription 85%, the deduction. So I'm under the belief really that central casting, but not all central casting, because there's too many that need to wake up. If we remember though, wasn't it just a few days ago that Trump came out and said, Tylenol, don't take it, don't take it, don't take it? Was that possibly a shot across the bow? Hey, look, we're coming. And then they had the negotiations that night with the pharmacy, with Pfizer and the pharmaceuticals. The negotiations were so tough. They were so close. It took until midnight. But yet there was a shot across the bow, throwing Tylenol out there first to get them to start moving. And so I tie those two together, whether it's already happened, whether that guy from Pfizer is actually taken down and that's somebody else. But I guess what I'm trying to say is I tied that backwards. And what Alpha was saying is how to tie things going forward. And that's kind of where, I'm trying to figure out more so of how to do that in regards to the movement and the podcasters and whatnot. Sometimes I'm just only trying to pay attention to those who I have discernment with. But really, I thought it was kind of interesting that only days before yesterday that they came out with the big Tylenol, throw them under the bus and get that information out. What do you think?
Well, that's for you, Mr. Alpha. Where'd you go? Hello. Alpha Warrior.
He's doing a set of biceps.
He's blowing that thing up. All right. So, Sergeant, do you want to say anything while we're waiting for Alpha or Santino?
Yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to. One thing I forgot I was going to bring up was, and I haven't heard you guys talk about it yet, so this is good. So I'm putting in some new information. Well, not new, but to the conversation. Pete Hegseth at one point in time in the conversation said, and maybe, or he said, and the next war there won't be a rear. Okay, when he said there won't be a rear, what he's talking, because he was talking about deployed assets and stuff like that. What he said was that the next war that occurs, in his eyes, as he sees it, if it is to come or when it comes, because I don't know, that sounded to me more of a when than an if, because he sounded like that was more of a statement than a opinion or like an educated guess. Because he said, and the next war there won't be a rear. That means that we're not going to be forward in another country. The war will be here on U.S. soil. Now, I took that for what it was with a grain of salt, but I thought it was very interesting that he did, in fact, say that. What that means, I didn't gather it 100% because it was more of like a real punch in the face, like, holy shit, he just said that the next war there'll be no rear. That means the fight's here. So when is the fight coming here? You know?
Thank you, Sergeant. Alpha, do you want to? Did you hear? You can respond to that with Sergeant. But did you hear anything that CPAT Fish had said by chance? What happened to you? Did you get
I
cut off?
I caught some of it. CPAT, if you want to give me like the 15-second summary real quick.
Yeah, and I also like DM'd you this morning. But basically, we had the most favorite nations yesterday. They had the big production about the gentleman from Pfizer and how they're going to invest the 17 billion. But really, wasn't Trump shooting him a shot across the bow when he came out a week earlier talking about Tylenol and how don't take it. It's not good for you. It has to do with autism. Like, hey, look, guys. I'm going to go ahead and let them know about some of the dirty stuff that's happening with some of these prescriptions and some of these over-the-counter stuff. And then yet a week later, Pfizer comes up and says, yeah, we're going to go ahead and lower our costs 85% or whatever. And, there's more coming.
So a lot here, and of course, anytime the pretenders, the panicans, FAGA, anti-Trump has an opportunity to come after Trump, they're going to do it. And of course, with Pfizer, there it is again. He's controlled. Trump's always controlled, right? But yet, when you see the way it actually works out several months down the line, it's we all should be wearing T-shirts that say "I told you so." Infrastructure is important in every industry. Just like with Hollywood, you're not just going to see things taken down because then there still needs to be something in place to replace that vacuum in culture. What you're going to see is you're going to see things taken over. And that's what you're going to see. You're going to see these things made because it's the optics of what's going on because things have to play out the way they are. But at the same time, like you said, Trump is coming out and saying, under no circumstances would I ever take Tylenol. So that's a major hit to big pharma. So in one narrative, you have people saying Trump's controlled by pharma and Pfizer, and then on the other hand, you have Trump doing a direct financial shot at these very institutions. Why? Because the last time I checked, Trump isn't living inside my house. The last time I checked, Trump isn't the one going to Walgreens to buy the medicine for my kids. That this is my home, my choices, and my responsibility. So Trump is affecting the warfare. Remember, the things that we can control and the things that we can't. This is a prime example of that. We're not in the position right now, especially because elections are still compromised. We are not in the positions where we have an immediate effect on what goes on who's the CEO of Pfizer versus who's not, who are the investors here versus who's not. We see Trump that will expose them and do financial hits, but at the end of the day, what is the part that you have an effect on? And it's what you buy and what you don't buy, and what you use and what you don't use. And so again, you know, what does the war look like? In the end, we we have issue because what's a vulnerability to the United States right now? And it's the fact that a lot of our medications are made outside of the United States. And I'm not talking about one, I'm kind of anti synthetic medication, but the understanding is people don't get to just cut this stuff off right away. There's a weaning process to move to, more holistic remedies, which is what I prefer. But at the same time, we don't control a lot of the medications controlled or that are created. It's outside this country. Even the medicines that we do create, the places, the capsules that we put these things, that stuff's not made. So there's vulnerabilities to our country. So is there potential that we see companies like Pfizer and all this other stuff start to do, and shift in the direction of being things that we do control? An example of that is, if you remember during COVID, what would they kept saying? They wanted to kill people with with not having ventilators or putting people on ventilators when it was unnecessary. And the argument was, there's no way we have enough ventilators for anybody, right? Because if all of a sudden there's a lack of a product, everybody's fighting to get it because there's a reason that there's a lack for it. So what did Trump do? He took a lot of these manufacturing companies, especially some vehicle ones, and instantly within days had them converted over. And all of a sudden we had this abundance of ventilation machines that we saw that hospitals were just storing them in the basements because it exposed the lie that the need for them wasn't as dramatic as, again, the narrative agenda was pushing out. So now this, so apply that thought process to when you hear these things with Pfizer. Money being invested here, which, 17 billion, 17. I think that's kind of an indicator of what's going on there. And then on the other side of it, at the same time, he's also saying, yeah, I'm putting this 17 billion over here, but just remember, I wouldn't even take Tylenol if it was me. So I think people need to pay attention to the entire context of what's happening instead of the headlines for the people that are just anti-Trump, anti-MAGA.
Remember, everybody, words matter. So a lot of people like to put out that word salad. So pay attention to how people, again, are speaking and what they're saying and the consistency of it. All right, Alpha, I know you only got 15 more minutes. Well, that sucks. But we've got some hands here. So let's get through these hands. So we're going to go with Vanilla Gorilla. That's awesome. Deborah, Fed Up, and then Sergeant. So go ahead, Vanilla Gorilla. Did I say that right?
Yes, ma'am. You most certainly did. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Alpha Warrior. Thank you, Santino, for hosting an amazing space. I know we're on a time crunch, so I'm going to get to it. The first thing we're discussing is bringing back the warrior ethos. We have many devil dogs in here. God bless you guys for your service. One of the greatest things that I learned when I was in the military, deployed with the 3rd Division Marines, is that every Marine is a rifleman. Doesn't matter what your MOS is. The very first thing you find out about the Corps when you are deployed and you are overseas is when Gunny Sergeant points to whoever the fuck he wants to choose. God commands them to serve and they stand the fuck up. Every Marine can breach. Every one of them. Every one of them can go door to door. Every one of them is a phenomenal and expert with that rifle. And I want to let you know that is what you get when Marines are deployed. They are literally a battle ready division to destroy and conquer anything dumb enough to get in their fucking way. And thank you to all the devil dogs in the room. Thank you for your service. God bless you guys. We love you so much. I was blessed and fortunate to be a combat medic. And, let me tell you, I have so much respect for the Corps. I'm blessed enough to be a doctor for the military now. And I love taking care of the men and women who serve this great nation. It is an absolute blessing. God bless you guys. The military standards, a lot of people are talking shit about Pete Hegseth, saying, you know what, this is gonna attack the vulnerable. This is going to attack the women. This is going to attack the gays and lesbians. Absolutely not. Those are spoken by people who clearly never served. Gay and lesbian populations often go into the United States government because this is one of the most areas. I'm not talking about the trans community. This is one of the areas which they will not be hated by society. They will be welcomed. They will be cared for as long as you can do the job of everyone else. You will not be harassed, you will not be bothered. A lot of people want to leave the California or Texas state foster system and join the military, and they do so with honor. With women, they say, oh, women will not be in these positions. Let me tell you, women have a much faster response time in many things, and they make some of the best fighter pilots in the United States Air Force and the United States Navy. It is absolute bullshit if they tell you that women will not be in combat roles. Yes, there may be less in physical on the ground roles, but let me tell you, you will see women prosper in this military. Going to the second issue, Schumer's shutdown. Americans are not we're not second class citizens. We don't get second best. What the Democrats want to do is give free, we don't even get free fucking health care. All right, not a dollar should leave the United States until every veteran, man and women, is domiciled, no longer homeless. And I mean that. I don't want a single dollar going to fucking Israel. I don't want any dollar going anywhere until the men and women of this nation are taken care of. If you want to give free health care to someone, give it to Americans. Americans are not second class citizens. If you want to tariff the shit out of other countries and give free shit, you do it to Americans. This country, we work, we make everything in this whole country prosper and go forward. We do not need to give shit to illegals, or more and more will come and destroy this country. Third,
Amen.
lastly,
Vanilla Gorilla, I don't mean to cut you off, but Alpha's on a time constraint. I got to get through some of these other hands. So I don't mean to cut you off. I don't like doing that. But if you can kind of wind it up within the next 10 seconds, 30 seconds, then I can go to these other hands. Thank you.
copy that. 30 seconds. Tylenol has always been dangerous. It is a dangerous medication. It is used very effectively. However, there's a 4-gram limit for healthy individuals and a 2-gram limit for any individual that has health issues. Please read the advisement. Only use medications with absolutely necessary. God bless you all. Thank you for your time, and I yield.
God bless you. Thank you, Vanilla Gorilla. Okay, Deborah, go ahead, and then Fed Up. And then Sergeant left. So go ahead, Deborah.
Hey, Jen. Hey, Alpha. Hey,
Hello.
Santy. What's going on, guys? Um, I see the heart, Santy. Alpha, you were sitting here talking about the way you dress and the military code and all. I'm sitting here with my daddy, and he's a preacher, y'all, so no cussing, okay? um, he was in the Korean War, so I was going to let you talk to him and ask him about how they dressed and what the status was for them, Alpha, if you'd like that.
Well, one, ask him if he was part of the Frozen Chosen. I'm very curious to that.
Here, he's sitting right here. I'm gonna let you talk to him. He's 92 years old. Here. Say hello. Hello.
Hey, how's it going, sir? And thank you for your service. Were you part of the Frozen Chosen, or did you have any buddies that were part of the Frozen Chosen?
Not, no, I was not part of that. Um, I was fortunate enough to spend my time in Germany, but only by a drop of the hand. Otherwise, I would have been in Korea. uh, but the army has changed so much, I wouldn't even recognize it today. We had dress uniforms. We we wore our uniforms proudly, and we saluted our officers, and whether we had respect for them or not, we respected the bars that they wore and the positions they held. And I would do it all over again if I needed to. And all of his brothers, my grandfather was in World War I. He was on the ship on the way to go there, y'all. My mama's back here. Let me laugh about that. setting us straight. He was on the ship to go over there when World War I was stopped, but my uncles were in World War II and Vietnam, and some of them were in Vietnam. So I have a whole military family here, and Daddy could tell you about that too.
I definitely
Well,
appreciate that, Deborah, and make sure you give those same acknowledgments and sentiment to your father.
yes, thank you for their service, all of their service. Thank you for sharing that and letting your and having your dad come up on stage and talk. Thank you, Deborah.
You're welcome, honey. I'll talk to y'all later. I got work to do. Talk to you later.
God bless.
You too,
God
Jenny.
bless.
Bye bye.
All right, fed up. Go ahead. Your mic is unmuted, my friend.
Yeah. Well, just real quick, so you are closing. Question I had for you, Alpha. Long time no see. Hadn't seen you in a little bit. Um, on the BB meeting, a couple things I've seen brought up, and I was wondering your thoughts on it because I know you look a lot into messages that either Trump might be sending to us or sending to other people. The couple things that was noticed Bannon brought up was the fact that no color guard at the meeting, and we know Trump loves his pomp, So if he did that, something. So wondering your thoughts on what that might mean, and and then the meeting, the fact it went 2.5 hours long, and BB basically being forced to call and apologize to Qatar over his attacking in Qatar territory. I was just wondering your thoughts on those things.
Yeah,
Uh,
I would definitely tell people go watch DEFCON Zero last night because we go to detail on this particular thing. But the quick flashpoint on this is absolutely the color guard was not present, which is something every time a nation state head comes, that is something that happens, and it wasn't there. I think that was a sign of disrespect from Trump to Bibi. And then the other thing is the phone call. If you remember, what did Netanyahu when that he needs to apologize, and he laughed it off, he shrugged it off. And what happened within the that phone call was made in the very beginning of Netanyahu's visit with President Trump. So before that meeting was going to go anywhere, Trump checked them and said, "Hey, you're going to apologize for this." Why? Because we know that they're all trying to make something happen in that region of the world. So I think that was a significant point. The other thing that's very significant is, one must at least consider this thought process. BB is well aware of all the different rhetoric that's on social media. He's talked about it. So he's aware of people out there saying that there are Israeli paid influencers on these platforms. He's aware of that prior to this ever happening. So then why in the world, because you always got to ask yourself, what's the net benefit for something, right? Why in the world would he publicly put it out there that these are, our influencers, this is what they're getting paid, this is how much, people are getting paid for a post. There is no benefit to that other than to inflame and vindicate the people that have been putting that information out there to begin with. It's my belief that all these moves were made because he was directed to do it by President Trump. And what does that do? That it finally puts to bed, any doubt people may have that there are people on here that are being paid to push an agenda. Now, I will remind people, and this is going to be the post you see that I drop here in a little bit. Israel ain't the only one doing it. CCP's doing it. The Muslim Brotherhood's doing it. Anybody with a financial bone in the fight is doing it, to include Big Pharma, to include the military industrial complex. So again, awareness is important, but do not get sucked into the mindset of what people want to think that it's only this particular group of people. Because if you do that, you're going to miss all the rest of it that's happening. You guys got to understand that I'm going to say this real fast in the interest of time, Jenny. There are two main factions that were designed to control the world, the people: governments and the church. And if anybody's read history books or watched movies, it's always at some point in time, that's who has run the world. And why is this balance there? Because when the time comes that people realize that governments are compromised, they don't have their best interest in them, and that's who's bogging them down, and they turn on governments or they go to recapture governments, then that vacuum of powers, or that power is removed, and that creates a vacuum. Well, something has to fill that vacuum. And that's why the church has always been designed. And so then when hundreds, if not thousands of years pass and people realize that the churches have been infiltrated and it's just a rebranded deep state of government, and they go and then they take that down or move away from that, then the vacuum, and you just have this pendulum that swings back and forth, but it's such a vast creature that it's literally something that takes hundreds, if not thousands of years to unfold. And so memories forget how it originated. And so you have that unfolding here. They want you guys to fall into either there's two things that I see are their primary weapons right now: the race war, white versus black, or the religious war. You know, Christian versus Jew versus Muslim. That's what they want. Now there are extremists in all these groups, and every one of these groups has extremists that are dangerous. Every one of these groups has infiltrated our government in some capacity. So what you have to be able to navigate is how to speak the truth and put factual information out there because we need it without getting sucked into the rhetoric that is meant to sow hate, anger, and kinetic response. Because you cannot win an information warfare kinetically. It's impossible. It actually works against you.
And I think too, with all the moves that we're seeing, like Fed Up was just talking about that Trump is doing, and Alpha talked about, it's just basically confirming and showing more of all of us and the haters out there of who is really in control, and that no, Bibi does not control Trump. I mean, it's just blatantly in our faces, everybody. If you can't see it, it kind of comes back to some common sense a little bit. So to me, it's just telling everybody who really is in control. So Alpha, can you take Sergeant's one more question, or do you got a bolt? Do you got a bounce?
Yeah, I can give another minute or two.
All right, go ahead, Sergeant.
Sorry. Hey, I just wanted to thank you again. Sorry, I got a phone call. I just wanted to, I don't know if you guys talked about it, just to bring up one more time the part where Pete Hegseth says the next war will be there won't be a rear in the next war. Did you catch him say that, Alpha?
I don't remember that particular part, but I do understand what you were saying with it, but I don't remember that
Okay.
particular part.
Yeah, so he says that right there. It's right towards the 3/4 mark, somewhere right towards right before the end, probably like the last 5 or 10 minutes. I don't remember. He goes for about 30 minutes or so. But the last 5 minutes or so, he starts talking about how in the next war there won't be a rear, and I thought that was very interesting that he said that. And then when I came back into the space, you're literally talking about all the wars that are occurring right now on U.S. soil, and he's not wrong. There's the war is here now. It's information war, it's gender war, it's Christianity war, it's Muslim war, it's all war. It's all happening right now, and that, I mean, he said it. He wasn't wrong. That's all. I just didn't know if you picked that up when he said that, because it was like very interesting when I heard that. I was like, wow, he actually said that out loud. The quiet part.
Thank you, Sergeant. And Alpha, thank you once again for being here. I love having you here. You're just a great source of information, and we're always in spaces together with the other crew that we have. And I want to say thank you to Santino for always co-hosting, and Reaper. I forgot to say hi to you, girl. You came, you went, you came back. Hello, and everybody. Follow all the co-hosts, the hosts, the speakers that are up here if you enjoyed what they said. And everybody come over to my Telegram page, The Revival of America. We will have Captain Kyle on there about it's what is it, 1 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. So that will be 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, his time. And then we're gonna have SGN on over there as well, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So with that, everybody, Alpha, God bless you. Thank you so much for being here. I'll get
Yeah.
you back on
One
in what?
one quick funny on the way out, just to end with some humor. You guys go look up a UFC fighter that fights out of the Netherlands, and he goes by the nickname of Makina, Maquina. He's 5-0. When you look up this fighter and you figure out what's funny, you let me know. God bless and semper fi, everybody.
God bless everybody. Thank you so much for being here. We'll talk to you guys soon. I'll see you guys in the other spaces. You know who I'm talking to. God bless. Take care. Have a great day, everybody.
This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.